Hi, good morning. My name is Jimmy. I'm from Brain Bites. It's a great opportunity to be able to meet great speakers like Tony Fernandes. With all these opportunities opening up, it's great that Malaysia is looking into going global.
I'm Cheryl Saman. I'm from Local Coffee & Co.
I think Malaysian businesses have a lot of potential, and I'm very proud to say that a lot of Malaysian companies have gone global.
My name is Michelle Ho. I'm from Kinder Soups. It's a good opportunity to actually just meet people and then look around and gain knowledge from one another and also to share. The most important thing is really just to offer value to people. That in itself already is your first stepping stone to going global.
Malaysian companies are increasingly taking the next steps to becoming global businesses. They are moving beyond merely shipping their goods abroad. They are setting up operations overseas. But the act of reaching across borders, whether you're outsourcing or looking to expand into new markets, can be intimidating. The Economic Transformation Program's Global Malaysia Series speaks to those titans of industry who have made the bold leap into the great unknown in an attempt to demystify this process of going global for the rest of us. There is definitely wisdom to be passed on. There are lessons to be learned. Tony, I thought we'll begin with a little bit about you. I mean, the idea of going global is something that can be quite intimidating. But a lot of people know your backstory. I mean, they've read hundreds of stories, whether it's from the Star to the BBC to the Wall Street Journal. But I wanted to talk to you about, I guess, your own education and how that influenced your thinking beyond the shores and what basically made you go, you know what, my backyard isn't big enough for me.
So let me go back in terms of going to school. I'd never been out of Malaysia. One day my father comes to me and says, I'm sending you to England to school. So it sounded pretty cool. They took me to Subang Airport. My father was a bit of a lunatic. He gave me £50 and I had to find my own way to school. And I arrived in Epsom, and then I went up to my school, and I thought, wow, what have I done wrong in my life? It looked like a prison camp. But you get on, and the great thing about being thrown in the deep end is you either sink or you swim. And I think in every experience here, you can never really prepare yourself. You can never prepare yourself to open your company in Thailand you just got to do it, basically, and you learn along the way, and you adapt. And I think the best part of going abroad was just being thrown in the deep end and having to survive. It's really Darwinism.
Right. Sink or swim is a very interesting idea, given that I'm sure when you decided to take a lot of your companies outside of Malaysia, not just, and even outside of ASEAN, I guess the people around you would have told you it's too risky, it's too complicated, competition is too tough. I mean, I guess you get thrown those catchphrases all the time. And how do you deal with that? I mean, does it take a certain amount of self-confidence and even arrogance in your own belief that you're right?
There is no recipe. But, if you don't try, you don't know. Let me go back a bit, right? So, I said earlier in the interview, from the moment I came out of my mother's womb, I was supposed to be a doctor. I had a stethoscope round me when I came out of my mother, and I was programmed. So us Malaysians sometimes get pre-programmed. And I think for all you parents out there, please don't tell your kids to be doctors, lawyers, etc. Tell them to be like Idris and go change this country. And that, I think, is one of our problems. Malaysian parents will push their kids into one direction. Entrepreneurism may not be the right direction. Professional career is always looked at. And then we're a bit risk-averse, and we spend our time looking at the negatives. There are 100 reasons why we shouldn't do it, as opposed to why we should. So if you think about my life, right, it's everything I've done is contrary. So I was in the music business, and then I suddenly got bored and said, I want to start an airline. Now, can you imagine the advice Malaysians were giving to me? And if I listened to that advice, I wouldn't be here. I'd still be fighting pirates in Chinatown. But, you know, you've got to take risks and you've got to break the norm.
But of course, isn't that where the self-assurance and the, I guess, I mean, to a certain extent, I mean, arrogance in the best way. And it goes into the psychology of empire building as well, which is essentially what you've done in many ways, because you've expanded. And while the businesses are connected, they're at the same time not.
No, the businesses are very connected. I wouldn't say take a conglomerate approach, which I think many Malaysian companies do. They just put their hands in lots of businesses. I think focus is key in expansion. My job is AirAsia. That's what I do every day. I'm an investor in a group of companies that have the AirAsia principles. So, you know, we want to serve the underserved. So, Tune Hotel is serving a budget market, Tune Insurance, and so on and so forth. But focus, I think, is very key, and my job every day is AirAsia, and that's what I do. But we benchmark with other airlines, and we benchmark with service industries. So we say, you know, we look at great service-orientated companies, whether it's a Kia, whether it's Ritz-Carlton, etc., and say, well, could we emulate these? For instance, social media in some companies are fantastic, and we learn from them. We learn from Google and how their environment, their workplace environment to foster innovation and foster creative thoughts. So no specific benchmarking in other industries. In our own industry, yes, we benchmark. We look at, as I mentioned earlier, Ryanair, who we think is the most efficiently run airline in the world. We look at Southwest. We look at all of these guys. But ultimately, you can read all the books you want. It goes back to your first bit of your question. It's got to be the AirAsia way. Never do the Toyota way or the British Airways way or whatever, because we're just not that way, right? We are what we are. The AirAsia way is very simple. Flat structure, ability to communicate, ability to innovate and come up with ideas, strong powers of delegation, yet also some centralization as well. And the ability to dream. I know that's not a very hard metric. It's like, what the hell does that mean? The ability to say, well, I'm here now, I could be here, there, and actually see it happening. That's a very, very powerful force that you can do anything you want to do. So the AirAsia way is challenge. Don't take no for an answer.
How does brand Tony Fernandes work in conjunction with brand Malaysia, which helps you more when you're going global?
That's a very good question, which I'm going to twist. Us Malaysians rely on the government too much. We never have, because many of the times we've been fighting against the government.
Right.
And so, you know, we want to be spoon-fed the whole time, but we don't get off ourselves and say, let's do it ourselves. So, you know, we didn't go to any government organization for branding help or grants or whatever. We probably wouldn't have got it anyway. No one knew Malaysia. I used to have to say Malaysia's in between Thailand and Singapore. That's not the case anymore. Whether it's F1, whether it's Twin Towers, whether it's other Malaysians who've gone global, people know Malaysia now. So it certainly has not deterred. It's helped tremendously being Malaysian. But ultimately, it's irrelevant whether you're Malaysian or American or British or Thai or whatever. You've got to go out there and build your brand yourself, and Malaysia can assist you by helping. And I think it's more the companies that drive it, because I think a second Malaysian company following at the back of us has an easier time.
Yeah.
I think us Malaysian companies do not focus on branding. We're very P&L driven, right? So you spend 10,000, you want to see your return straight away. I think that's where in the West they do things better. They invest in the brand. AirAsia wouldn't have gone from 200,000 passengers 12 years ago to 44 million passengers without branding. But I say branding is so critical. And I mean, we did some bold moves, right? We were a little Malaysian company and we went out and sponsored Manchester United.
Yeah.
Now, that is a painful decision because I hate that football club. And, you know, can you imagine? We had 7 planes, 7 all 737s, but we had the balls to go out there and sponsor Manchester United. And when me and Cameroon went to the Theatre of Dreams, or whatever stupid name they call it, Old Trafford or whatever, I never watched the football. I was watching AirAsia on the banner, right? Like me and Cameroon were real kampong boys. Hey, AirAsia, AirAsia. Every time our logo came out. But can you imagine 7 planes, an unknown brand, and we're on the same billboard as Vodafone, Budweiser, Audi, some of the biggest brands. That, I think, was confidence, that we didn't care. We didn't care anyone saying, who are you, AirAsia?
Yeah.
Many people did. But that's how we built the brand. You know, when we did Formula One, when we sponsored the referees. And I'll tell you a story about the referees and how we pushed the branding so hard, right? So we went out, and this is where you take globalization away. You got to believe us Malaysians are as good as anyone else in the world. So we were competing with Emirates for the referee sponsorship, and Emirates had like $1 gazillion more than us, right? So I did a big speech to the Premier League. I said, you've got to support us, right? Because Malaysians have been watching football from the year dot, and there's like one person in Dubai who watches football. And he's English. So didn't make too much of a difference. Then I said, you have to support us because us Malaysians have been fixing all your games for the last 30 years.
30 years, yeah.
You know, you want to know globalized industry, minister, is the bookies. Malaysia controls it. And they're all in East Malaysia. So that didn't work. And then I finally said, look, I want to sponsor the red card as well. And so they looked at me like, what do you mean the red card? I said, yeah, I want to have AirAsia.com on the red card. And they went, what do you mean? I said, yeah, when Wayne Rooney gets sent off, that picture's all over the world. And it will say AirAsia.com.
You just want to be the one sending off Wayne Rooney.
And then on the other side, I want to do more than that to Wayne Rooney, especially if he's going to Chelsea. And on the other side, it'll say, now you're suspended, have a holiday with AirAsia. And they loved it. They said, we love your energy, we love it. Okay, we'll give you the sponsorship.
But with regards to brand Tony, on the other hand, what does that mean for, I guess, your succession plans, or when you leave other people in charge of your different companies or invested companies, when you're going global? I
think we have very good CEOs, and the ability, when Irene became CEO, you've got to let them be CEO. So I moved out of Malaysia. I went to Jakarta. Because if I was still here, then she would not grow. She would just be a messenger. I mean, she is now the boss. And I'm in Jakarta, not because I'm abandoning Malaysia or anything, but if we really want to be an ASEAN company, I want to be sitting right next door to the ASEAN Secretary General so I can push the ASEAN agenda. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And I think this is where we got to, the reaction to us moving to Jakarta shows that Malaysia needs to mature a little bit because it's a Malaysian company that's making moves to becoming more global.
Yeah.
And I think Idris said it once when I got an award somewhere. He said, in 10 years' time, if you're all not globalized companies, you won't be sitting in front of me. The top 300 was an EDGE award. And so we must stop being parochial. We must look beyond our shores. It doesn't change my DNA. I'm Malaysian, that will never change. But going back to your point, succession planning is really key. And that's why we have Irene there, we have Azran, we have Taspon in Thailand, and so on and so forth. And if you go to my Indian CEO, I don't go to India anymore. He's now doing all the, he looks like a Bollywood film star anyway. So I told him at a press conference, I said, in 5 years' time, if you look like this, you'll be fired. Because then the stress wasn't good enough, right? I mean, he spends all his time with his hair. He refused to wear an AirAsia cap. I almost fired him on the spot because he thinks he doesn't look good, but he's really smart. Again, as a lesson here, we break the mold. He was the headhunter who was looking for a CEO for us.
Right.
And we said, hey, why don't you be the CEO? You're really smart. Now, that's breaking conventional thought processes, right? And he's going to be awesome, and he'll be a rock star. I have no doubt about it. He's very smart. He's young. He's 33. And so, I think letting go is important in your company to making sure that there is strong succession planning.
So just to, I guess, get the conversation a little more general, because a lot of people here, I think, also come from companies that are looking to go global. Now, in your opinion, who do you think should do that? In the past, I guess, in the past couple of decades, it was always, or 2 decades ago rather, it was always, the domain of a Fortune 500 company. Only they could afford to go global. Is that still the case? Do you think?
No, I think that's rubbish. And I think, first of all, let's define global, right? I mean, I don't think AirAsia will ever be all over the world. I would love to be a global brand. My dream is, and this is a lofty dream, by the way, but we got a dream that people would know AirAsia as much as Coca-Cola. Then, very hard because we won't be operating in every country. But our business focus will very much be Asia. We may fly all over the world, but focus is Asia.
But now when going into these, I guess, the lion's den in a different country, whether it's in Jakarta, whether it's in England, in the US, and so on and so forth, a lot of these negotiations, I guess that's what frightened a lot of companies as well, because a lot of people don't know how much to leave on the table. And you seem to be very good at that. So if you could share some secrets, I guess, on negotiating with 7 different governments.
I think that's a myth. It's like a myth, like Indian bureaucracy. Everyone says, oh, don't do business in India because of Indian bureaucracy. I mean, I haven't seen it so far, right? You just got to go out there and engage. It's the one place in the world it's good to be Indian. They like me over there. So, but, I haven't seen anything. So, again, don't be put off by press or BFM or Star or all these publications, right? Until you go out there, you don't know, right?
So it isn't a different strategy for a different country?
I think the most important thing is, do you provide value to that economy?
Right.
I think if you're bringing jobs, if you're bringing economic development to the country, you're on a plus already, right? We're all looking for foreign investors and stuff, so Malaysian companies are no different. So I think when you're selling your company, the most important thing I think to most government is job creation. Are you creating jobs? And I think if you're on that, then governments are going to be much open to you.
Right. Just talking about, again, this idea of policy and governments and even regional-wide policies. Now, with things like ASEAN, you've got open skies, apparently in 2 years, ASEAN Economic Community in 2015 and all of this stuff. But do you actually plan based around these things? Or
No, because I think ASEAN is moving tremendously in the right direction.
Yeah.
But of
course, it's consensus-based.
I think
so
industry
no
has to drive. If there were no ASEAN brands, why should the government change, right? I think we wait. Industry must drive change. So whether it's us, CIMB, Genting, YTL, etc., there are many brands that are pushing the barrier and creating ASEAN and Asian powerhouses. And that invigorate, and also from the other way, whether it's San Miguel, buying our petrol stations here, etc., that creates government saying, hey, there's something happening here. My dream is that there'll be an ASEAN stock market, that there'll be ASEAN free flow of capital and free flow of labor. And I'm a big driver of that change. And we shouldn't be afraid, because from a 25 million market, we'll get to a 600 million market. And I'm so open, right? I mean, when Lion Air opened here, if Tiger Air wants to open here, makes no difference, provided we have equal access on the other side and let the best man win. If you really want to be global, you've got to compete with everyone, as long as there's a level playing field, right? And to me, it's much more exciting looking at a 600 million market than 25 million. And I think Malaysia is so uniquely balanced to capture all of that because of our cultural diversity. AirAsia, what you haven't asked me so far, we've been able to grow, everywhere really quickly because I go to India, I have all types of Indians in AirAsia, right?
Yeah.
Some who speak Punjabi, some who speak Tamil, whatever. Same in China. And then we have Malays who have ancestors from Padang, from Ujang Pandang, Sulawesi, etc. And that all helps, when you go to a country and you have some cultural identity, the bond is closer.